Hey, what is going on, guys? In today's video, I'm going to show you how to pull off clips like this.
Yeah, should be able to.
Oh, flip, flip, flip.
Okay.
Oh, God, it was scope the RL2. Oh, my God, it's double. Oh, he's dead. Holy crap. That's a clip. 26 on the other guy. Oh, it's L2. Some guys scope they are. Okay, well, I L2'd it with the scope they are. Yeah. So as you can see there, Scope the RL2 can be incredibly busted if you use it in the right situations and you know how to do it. So in today's video, I'm going to guide you through the process of learning how to do it, and hopefully you'll be able to pull off some clips like that as well. So we're going to split this video into 3 sections. The first section is going to be your background information, like what Fortnite project can you use this in, what sensitivity do you want to use to optimize for it. We'll then move into how to do the technique itself, and then finally I'll go through those gameplay examples in detail so you can see the thought process of how to implement Scope the RL2. Okay, let's start out with the important background info. The first thing is the difficulty of using this technique. I consider it to be a medium level in terms of how hard it is to use this. It's not as easy as spamming L2 with SMGs at close range, because although the spamming of L2 is pretty easy, the problem is it's very hard to see. So you're effectively going to be blind once you start firing, and hopefully in this guide I'll show you how to mitigate that so you can take advantage of the crazy things you can do with this. This works in EZFN Season 4 or Nexus Season 8. It'll pretty much work in any Fortnite build that has the legacy settings, right? You cannot use this in, say, Chapter 2 Remix if the Scope DR came back. You can't use it in Rewind Royale. You cannot use it also in EZFN Season 7, as because Season 7 has the L2 cooldown, it's not going to work because this method demands that you use L2 multiple times per second, so you can't use it in Season 7. This will generally work great at medium to long range, and the reason why is because a standard AR, you have to slow down your rate of fire to get perfect accuracy, and also those things have damage fall off, so they only do 2/3 damage at long range. With a Scope DR, you do the same damage at long range, and you have perfect accuracy while firing at full speed. In terms of your sensitivity, you're going to want to set your scope sensitivity as high as possible. The problem with this is that for regular snipers, you may want to set it lower, so it's going to be a compromise game, but the reason why you want to set it higher is because the higher sensitivity is, okay, the difference between scoping in and scoping out in terms of your sensitivity is very minimal. That's going to make it easier because you're alternating between in, out, in, out, in, out. And with that, let's go into how to do the Scope DR L2. So the first step is you want to align your crosshair as close as you can to the target before starting the L2 and try and estimate where your opponent is most likely to move. Because the problem is, once you start scoping in and out, there is a animation where there's a window where you don't have the normal crosshair and you don't have the scoped crosshair, which means you effectively have 0 crosshair, and because you're spamming in and out with the left trigger, you're transitioning between those two scoping in and scoping out, and you basically don't have a crosshair in that transition. And the second thing is, depending on where you're looking up or down, your camera may put itself into a position where you're looking at the bottom of the scope DR, you're looking half like in the scope, like the shell of the scope. It can be in a weird situation where you just can't see. So the key thing is that you need to have already decided where you're going to move your stick, because it's very hard to make corrections later on as you won't be able to see. So once you've gotten those 2 steps done, you feel like you're close to your target and you've got an idea of where they're going to move, you're going to start using L2. And the way I like to explain this is that instead of doing out, in, out, in, out, in, out, you want to do in, out, in, out, in. Okay, so let me explain what that means. So you want to be mostly scoped in and then very briefly scope out and back in. Why do you want to do that? You get perfect accuracy only when you're scoped in. So if you spend most of your time scoped out and are briefly tapping in out, you're not taking advantage of that perfect accuracy. But if you're starting in and then scoping out and then back in and then holding in for a short time, that's how you're going to get the perfect accuracy. And this method demands that you take advantage of the perfect accuracy of being scoped in, because when scoped out, the Scope DR has terrible bloom. So it's very important that you're spending most of your time scoped in and then pulling out briefly and back in. If that doesn't quite make sense, I do explain this again in the gameplay examples, and maybe it'll make more sense in the real world example, but hopefully that kind of gives you an idea of what you're trying to do. Now, the second thing is you really can't see, right? You might get lucky and you can see quite well, or you might get unlucky and you can't see at all. the fact of the matter is you really are relying on guesswork. Do your best to try and find brief moments where you can see your opponent and make adjustments with your right stick, but really you're going to be relying mostly on Scope the L2 to do most of the work, right? Because it's going to be very hard to make adjustments. If you're in a situation where you fired like 5 shots and you haven't hit anything, I'd recommend stopping the L2 and resetting your aim, because once you get too far off, L2 can only help you from so far away. So if you're way off, you need to stop, reset, and try again. And with that, let's go into the gameplay examples, which will hopefully give you a little bit more information on how to do this. Now, I'm going to walk through the examples I showed you at the start of the video and basically use the technique that I described in the previous section in a real-world example here. So, example number 1, we spot an enemy to our right. First thing we need to do, align our crosshair as close as possible before starting to scope the RL2. Right as we start here, we're pretty close, a little bit to the right, but it's close enough to where scope the RL2 can do the work. So, we're going to scope in, and then as you can see, very quick tap, out, in, right? We spend 2 frames out. We spend 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 frames in. So you want to spend much more time scoped in than scoped out to make sure you get the perfect accuracy. And as you can see here, we are pushing our stick just a tiny bit to the left, but L2 can do most of the corrective work. And as you can see here for the second shot, we are pretty far off when we fire our L2 for the second shot, but L2 can do a huge corrective behavior and get the snap on, and boom, critical hit just like that, kill secured. So really, you're going to do the best you can, given it's going to be difficult to see and you won't have a crosshair, but L2 can do a lot of the work. Let's move on to our second example here. And as we can see, we're aligning our crosshair as close as possible. In this clip, we're actually not that close for the first shot, but I am pushing my stick to the right, and the enemy is falling into where my crosshair is going to be. So that's going to be an initial hit, right? And same deal, right? Spending most of your time scoped in, and then just doing a quick out, in, right? And doing your best to track the opponent. In this situation, they end up standing still right here, which is perfect, because that means we can chain 2 headshots in a row, and that's huge damage. And even in this situation, we can barely see anything, but we know they're moving to the left, so we make a slight adjustment to the left, and L2 can finish the job. Let's move on to example number 3 here. This is a Season 4 clip, but the exact same technique applies. In this one, this is a situation where you won't be able to see at all. So we can initially see our target. We're a little bit to the right, but that's fine. Scope the RL2 can do the correction. But as you can see when we walk through the frames, we have 1 frame here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? A few frames where we can see the opponent. But from this point here, we only get intermittent, brief moments where we can see our enemy. But it doesn't matter because they're moving slowly, they're crouch walking, and L2 can make minor adjustments every shot to correct. And as you can see here, we're going to do huge damage. We're even going to score a headshot here. In fact, we scored 2 headshots. And during this whole sequence where we hit those shots, you can't see anything. But because we aligned our crosshair close enough and did the L2ing, L2 can do the job for you, even though you literally cannot see. And for our final clip here, again, a Season 4 clip, same technique. We see our target, right? We're very close to target. We start L2ing. And the great thing is it just happens to be, given our camera position, that we're actually able to see really well with our target. But as I want to illustrate here, you really don't have a crosshair. But again, we're making a slight adjustment to the left. As we can see, they're moving to the left. And L2 can do the rest of the work to chain a series of hits together and secure the kill. So really, big things to take away here. Just to conclude that scope the L2, you're not going to be able to see a lot. You don't have a crosshair half the time, but as long as you're close enough and do the best you can to aim, given what you can see, L2 can do the last bit of correction and help you score some huge chains of damage. And with that, I hope this video was helpful, and I'll catch you in the next one.